Hello guys, welcome back to the Django Rest Framework lecture series. In this tutorial, we will be creating APIs using Django Rest Framework. For that, let's create a Django project and run it using PyCharm. So let's open PyCharm first. I have both PyCharm community version and also the professional version. So let's open the community version, which is free for everyone, and click on new project. Let's give a location for the project, and we should create the environment as well, and just click on create. I will delete this main.py file. Now open the terminal over here. When you open the terminal in PyCharm, the environment is automatically activated. So we can directly write, we first install Django. For that, use pip install Django. Now with Django-admin start project. And my project is the name of the project. This command will create a new Django project. If you can see, there is a new folder with my project, and inside that there are few files. When we first create a Django project, we will get few files in it. And here the manage.py is the file which is helpful in running our server. We never edit this file. And the directory in which manage.py is there is the root directory of the project. We also have a settings.py file inside my project. This settings.py file is used to configure the settings for the project, like managing the databases, middlewares, setting up the time zone, etc. And we have a Wsgi file as well. Wsgi stands for Web Server Gateway Interface. This is the starting point of the Django application. It forwards the request to the Django application from the web server. And there is a urls.py file as well. We declare all our URL endpoints in the urls.py file itself. When an API is hit, first Django matches for the URL from the urls.py file, and if the URL is matched, it executes the corresponding view. Now to run the server, we need to go to the root directory and we need to run a command. So let's go into the root directory, which is my project. As I already said, the directory in which manage.py is there is the root directory of our project. So now let's write python manage.py run server. And here you go. Now our server is being run at 127.0.0.1:8000. If I click on this, here you go. Our first Django project has been created. So I'm just closing this. If you can see here, it is showing that you have 18 unapplied migrations. Migrations are nothing but they are related to the database. I'll be explaining about them in some time. Before that, to get rid of that line, we just need to write python. First we have to go into the root directory and then python manage.py migrate. Now let's install the Django Rest Framework library. For that, open a new terminal and in here pip install Django Rest Framework. Yeah, now it has been installed. Inside settings.py file and inside installed apps, we have to write the rest_framework. Whatever we write in installed apps will be registered with the Django, that we have a new app inside Django. Whenever we create a new app or anything, we write it in installed apps. We are just saying to Django that there is a new app which it has to be considered whenever the server is being run. Django is also famous for its best directory structure of maintaining the code for better readability. We can create separate apps for a set of code, like for maintaining the user's login, logout, and anything related to the users, we can create a separate app. For example, in an e-commerce website, we can separate the code with apps like accounts app, cards app, payments app, etc. So in here as well, we have to create a new app, which is python manage.py start app. Let's name it as students. And when I run this command, we will get to see a new folder over here. Here there is a new file with the name models.py and views.py. In models.py, we will be writing the code related to the database tables. So let's write our first model to create database tables. Before that, let's go to the settings.py file, and here we have to mention install apps students and go to models.py. For that, we need to write a class and a standard. Here we have to write models.model, and inside it we need to declare some fields. Like for now, we will just write fields models dot char field. Here the str method is used to represent the object name. Here the standard is the table name and name is the column name. It's simply like we are giving a constraint that the name is a character field with a maximum length of 266. And we can create a new table as well. We will declare the str method here as well and return self.name. We have written the code for the tables. Then we have to run the command python manage.py make migrations. This command packages the model changes to individual migration files. When I run python manage.py make migrations, here in migration file there is only one file for now. When I run the command, here we have to give the on delete as well. This is same as the foreign key which we declare in a normal SQL. And I will run the command again, and if you can see here, there is a new file created inside migrations file. The command we have run has packaged the model changes to the individual migration file, which is this file. Then we have to run the command python manage.py migrate. This command makes the changes into the database. Whatever changes like creating a table or altering the table fields are done in the database when this command is run. So let's run the python manage.py migrate. Yes, the migrations have been successfully applied to the database. There is an admin panel which Django automatically creates for us. When we access the URL 127.0.0.1:8000/admin in the browser, we will be asked to log in. Like for example, when I go to Chrome, here our Django server runs, and when I write /admin over here, it asks for username and password. We have to create a username and password. So let's go to our PyCharm, and for creating a username and password for the admin panel, we need to write the command python manage.py create super user, and it is asking for username. I will give omkar@gmail.com. Password is anything. Now our super user has been successfully created. So let's go to the Chrome and enter the credentials which we have just created, and here you go. This is the admin panel which Django has created for us already. In this admin panel we can see all the tables we have created. By default Django creates few tables, so that's why we are getting to see these users table and groups table over here. We cannot see the tables which we have just created, the standard and the students table, right? That's because we haven't registered them in the admin.py file. For that, let's go to admin.py file in the PyCharm in here. So here we have to register admin.site.register. The server has restarted automatically. Now refresh the page. Here you can see the standard and students model which we have just created. So when I open this, the dashboard looks something like this. We can add the rows inside the table from here as well, but we are not going to do this. We are going to create APIs for that. The views can be written in two different ways. One is with class based views and the other is with function based views. I personally like using class based views because with very less code we can write a complete API. In order to use function based views, we have to use the decorators. In these tutorials, we are going to focus only on class based views. Let's create our first API. Every time when we write an API, we go to views.py file, and here we will create our API and write its logic. views.py is going to handle all the APIs. So we have a class called APIView, which is imported from REST framework.views. Import APIView. APIView is one of the classes which is used in creating the APIs. Extending APIView offers the most freedom, but it also leaves a lot more work for us. It's a great choice if you need to have control over every aspect of the view, or if you have very complicated views. Let's see an example to understand this. Let's create a class. We are extending APIView in it, and here I'm creating a function called post, and it gets the request as well. Here we are creating a post API, which is used to create an object inside the standard table. When this API is hit with a post request, we create a new row in the standard table with the name given in the post request. So here we are implementing C for create in CRUD operations. Here comes a concept called serializer. Let's create a new file here and name it as serializers. Here from REST framework, import serializers. I can create class standard serializer, and we are extending serializers dot model serializer. Serializers in Django Rest Framework are responsible for converting objects into data types understandable by JavaScript and any other front-end frameworks. Like these serializers convert the objects in Python to a JSON format. So whatever the objects which we get from the database, they are directly converted into JSON when we pass the data to these serializers. And these serializers are also helpful to validate the data according to the model requirements. For example, inside the standard model, we have given that name should be at a maximum length of 266, and if we are not giving null equal to true over here, the database assumes that whenever creating a new row inside standard table, name is a required field. So these validations while creating an object inside an API are directly done by the serializer. So this is a better advantage of using serializers. Serializer equal to, let's import the serializer from dot serializers, import standard serializer, and here standard serializer, and whatever the data which we are passing from the front end in the form data is stored in the request object with a name request.data. So I can print request.data to show what is inside request.data, and here we are saying that if serializer.is valid, then we will write serializer.save and return. We have to import from REST framework dot response, import response. Here serializer.save method saves the object inside the database. So here return response, and inside the serializer.data we will have the data of the object which we have saved. Here the object refers to the row in a database. This response automatically converts the object into the JSON format and sends it to the client which has requested for this API. So if serializer is valid, then we are saving, or else serializer.errors consists whatever the errors, and here status equal to, we have to import from REST framework, we need to import status, and here status dot http 400 bad request. There are few http request codes which we have to send if there are any errors in our code. There is a proper strategy of using these http codes. You can read it from the documentation. I will mention this link in the description, you can check out there. These status codes are used universally, so not only in Django, in any other frameworks as well, they use the standard pattern of this HTTP status codes. So here, if any errors are there in the serializer, we are sending a status code of 400 which says that bad request. The interpreter goes in the else condition if the serializer is valid is false. This serializer is valid becomes false for few standard validations which are given in the models.py. Like if we are giving the name of size 267, then the serializer won't be valid. Let's create a urls.py file, and inside here we will just paste the URL patterns same as here. We don't need this one for now, and let's go to URLs, and here we have to give the path students slash, let's import include also. Here we are saying that when the URL consists of students slash after the main host link, which is 127.0.0.1:8000, we are saying that the further URL after students slash will be present inside the urls.py file in students app. So first it checks here and then go to the students urls.py file, and here it checks for the URL whichever matches and calls that particular view. So here we are saying that create standard slash, and let's import views over here from dot import views dot, we have our API standard API, and we have to convert it as a view. Now we have our API ready. Let's test it using Postman. Here I will create a new collection, and here I have to add a request, and I will name it create standard, or I will create a folder over here and I will say standards table, and I will paste it here. Here we have to give a post request, and the URL would be http://127.0.0.1:8000, and the API endpoint would be defined like this, like first the main URL, and it comes to here the main urls.py. So here we are saying that students, I will write students, and then inside students urls.py, and then the final endpoint is create standard. And when I go to standard API, it has a post request, so that's why we are using the post, and let's send the request. If you can see here, we have got a 400 bad request. This is because the serializer.is valid became false and it automatically raised the error. So if I check in the terminal, it has been printed request.data is empty. Here name, this field is required. So this serializer is saying that to create an object in standard table, it needs the name as a compulsory field. We haven't provided it in the post request, that's why it is showing the error. So inside body form data, let's give name equal to class 5, and when I give it, yeah, so when we have sent the data from the API, it has been directly accessed in the Django using request object, and request.data has the data which we have sent from the front end, and we can check if the values have been really inserted into the database or not in the Django admin panel. So when I refresh this page, so here you go, we have created our first API which creates a row inside a standard table. So that's great. I hope you guys understood creating a post request API. In the next video, we will also learn creating get, update, delete request APIs. If you have any doubts regarding any topic, please feel free to comment. I will be sharing the Instagram ID in the description. Please follow on Insta to get the best tips on Python, Django, and web development. If this video is helpful to you, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.